Imagine a place where the boundaries of age, industry, background, and culture melt away, replaced by a shared desire to explore the depths of our collective experiences here on the open, shaded porch. Amidst an atmosphere of serenity and tranquility, leaders from all walks of life gather to share their stories, the stories that shape their very beings and doings. This is the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Marouf.
I'm back with Nabil Habayeb, and we've been discussing his extraordinary 41-year journey at GE. He's been sharing invaluable wisdom, distilled from experiences spanning diverse cultures and leaders across the globe. Nabil, we talked about the past, but let's discuss the present. Since you left GE, there have been many disruptions in the world. The latest is AI. AI has been around for years, but it has recently gained significant public attention. And I want to hear your insights on the future of work. With AI now working alongside humans in the workplace, how can we compete with algorithms?
We're competing with one thing that we created, but there's also this human touch of thing that's always important to maintain. I think AI is good to, in certain way. I don't think it will replace all the things that is required for, at least in our domain, for what needs to be done. We still need to have the latest. I mean, if you think about the problems of the world around the climate and around efficiency and around, yes, AI may help us get closer to the solution, to the solution, but you still need to have the engineers, the people that are going to focus on solving the problem. I think AI is more of a tool. This is how I think of it. AI is more of a tool to help us achieve the problem. Now, can we compete with AI? It's a tough question to answer. I don't know how to address it. But we use AI to help us become more efficient in our domain. When we think about, for instance, taking a CT scan for somebody and doing an analysis. And yes, you can have somebody take a look at it. You still need to have somebody take a look at the scan and everything else, but having AI will help you make a better decision of the outcome of the scan. And looking at the materials that are being used, for instance, in an airplane engine, in an aircraft engine, or in a power plant or whatever, AI will help you do the analysis better. But at the end of the day, your recommendation needs to come from individuals that have to certify some of these things. So I'm watching it and I'm seeing how it's evolving in the future, but we've got to be very careful. And there has to be more limitations to AI. I don't know if you saw the latest, situation where if you had somebody create a conference call or cloned AI virtual, of the CEO, CFO of a bank and make $25 million, and it turned out that it was all AI driven. That's misuse of it, and there has to be more regulatory around it.
No, I hear you. I feel you. I know how concerning this can be because we don't have guidelines. We don't have rules. We don't have any understanding of what's coming. And I think this is where our anxiety arises from. But it also makes me think, and that's what I think triggered this knowledge mindfulness framework, is how, as humans, what is our competitive edge is going to be in an AI augmented knowledge world where algorithms are faster, working 24/7. Of course, we can't do that. So then where's our advantage? So I see it again going back to wisdom, good judgment is what you were talking about. It's okay, we have the answer from an AI, but it's up to the human with his good judgment to choose if this is going to be applicable or not, depending on what, depending on the relation with this, with the changing context. So there's a lot of that goes back to the words of wisdom. And this is, I think, hopefully going to be our focus in the future. And knowledge mindfulness is about really bringing out more wise, knowledge mindful leaders out there who can have a better judgment in choosing the right actions, even when AI is giving you solutions. And I think, having that sensibility is our need going forward. And that brings me to education and brings me to business education, brings me to all the previous learnings we have accumulated through all these years. And the biggest question, how do we need to reimagine business education? What are the new rules? What are the new guidelines? What are the new... Because in my perspective, we are in this middle transitional period where what worked in the last 10, 20, 50 years is not working as effective as we want, but we're not there yet. So what is your thoughts on that when it comes to, new way of thinking, reimagining business education for new leaders with new set skills, competencies that are more suited to today's world?
Laila, I think what you have mentioned around wisdom, I think, is extremely important to be part of the education system, because you want to also make sure that we don't, with the evolving technologies and AI and deep technologies and deep industries and quantum computation and all of this stuff, and the speed that everything is going at, and in this crazy world that we are facing these days, is to maintain the core values and principles of what is done from creating a good business community. As much as I'm open to and diverse and so on, but true and open to all individuals and backgrounds and everything else, there has to be this core values of conducting business maintained, whether it's integrity or compliance, or whether it is, the ethical outcome of a doing a transaction, and having people 100% agree with you more and more. Think about what you said about, the wisdom of, are we doing the right thing for the world? Are we doing the right thing for the community? Are we doing the right thing from business? Or are you doing it in a way to just create something for your own benefit with no respect to the rest of this family that you're trying to create, and so on? So the education system needs to really focus on the values and on the ethical part of doing business as well, and the wisdom, and helping with creating the wisdom in assessing that as well. So I think you're spot on when you talk about knowledge, mindfulness, and the wisdom behind it. I think it's important.
Through the lens of knowledge mindfulness, because that stems out of information science, knowledge management fields that are there, scientific fields that are there for the last many, many years. But I think where knowledge mindfulness came to play is, how do we value wisdom and unity as much as we value information and data? And how do we connect, again, that relationship between data, information, knowledge, wisdom, and unity? And that's where knowledge mindfulness comes into play. It brings all these factors together to show you the way, to show you that guidance in how to move forward into a higher knowledge maturity, which is more good judgment. That wisdom that we're talking about stems out of seeing the interconnections between all that. because we don't want to talk theory. We don't want to talk abstract. We want practical solutions in this modern world. So I think, and I feel very strongly that focusing on the process of knowing through the knowledge mindfulness framework would help us achieve practically that level of knowledge maturity that we need in today's world, which we call wisdom, good judgment, good timings of everything. So this is where I strongly feel passionate about nowadays, because as we were talking, I think augmented knowledge through AI, through these algorithms, is going to be much, much stronger. And there's a lot of talk, by the way, Nabil, about vocational training now being the ultimate, let's say, income bearing in the coming years, because they're talking, I hear a lot of talk about occupations like, for instance, writing, even coding, lawyers. A lot of these professions, they could be obsolete in the coming years because AI can take over all these skills in a much easier, faster, more efficient way than a human being. But they are still very much behind when it comes to the mechanics of holding things. So, a plumber could be gaining so much more money and having his job in the next 5-10 years is more kind of the perspective of what's going to be happening. But again, I think what we can just do now is kind of try our best in instilling the general flexible competencies that our younger leaders need to embark in this world. And these, I feel very strongly, has to be integrated in so many ways. And that's, again, where we advocate in the knowledge mindfulness framework, what I call the 3C loop. So they all go together. They're all integrated together in a way that can move you forward, but yet be flexible. You can create your own strategy as you go. You can change as situation shifts and changes. But also, I would love to take your insights about what is near to your heart now, Nabil, in terms of all these new... I know you have this title of retired, but to be honest, I love the title of rewiring, because that's what I'm doing right now. I don't feel we can ever retire. I feel with the longevity and, again, advances in technology, especially health technology and all that, I feel that could be a great opportunity to give more, but in a different way. So now you're rewiring. Tell us more about what's closest to your heart when it comes to healthcare, climate change, all these initiatives that you're so much involved in right now.
My wife doesn't think that I retired, and I actually didn't. I don't like that word. It's more like I rewired, because I'm focusing a lot more on the things that I really am passionate about. So when I'm rewired, I'm doing a lot of work on focusing on healthcare and education. You talked about the wisdom and how do you change the education system. I think this is very helpful, and it doesn't only work at the business school or at the higher education level. I think it needs to start from the elementary,
K-12.
from the high school, K-12, to make sure that you create this wisdom focus on and the ethic and build the foundation for the value for the future. I think there's a lot that needs to be done there. I think our education system sometimes may become archaic, and it needs to be changed. And I think the health of a population and what really makes a difference in the community is education and making sure that people are healthy as well to do that. And I think if you've got the education and you give people the opportunity, there's so much difference that you can make. And we've seen that through the programs that been. So I've been focusing a lot more on healthcare and education. And, and I'm focusing on also on giving back to the community. He talked about generosity. Somebody told me, somebody gave me a book that I was reading just, before retiring, about the different phases of life. You've got the first phase when you are building the foundation for yourself. You get the foundation from university, you get a good job, you start building your career. The second phase is when you're doing the same thing for your family and being generous in giving this thing for your family and prioritizing their education and healthcare and everything else. And the third phase of your career is when you're giving back, not only philanthropically, but you're giving back to, whether it's mentoring or whether it's how you build up the succession plan in your organization and you grow the career of people, or whether it is helping in advisory roles and that. So my focus as a rewire is on the things that I'm passionate about, which is healthcare and education. And now, as you said, generosity, I'm thinking of it as more of giving back to the community. But I think this session has been great learning for me as well, because I have, you've connected a lot of dots internally for me. Maybe I was talking to you about all my experience from an operational point of view. I never really looked at it from the way that you have been looking at it, from a knowledge of mindfulness and the importance of wisdom and so on. But I think there needs to be a lot more that corporations and individual and organizations that adopt that as well. And how you take this concept that you've been talking about, which I really congratulate you and Laila on taking on this, is how do you embody it as well into the education system at all levels?
Yes.
So
yes. I think I just want to, when we use the concept knowledge mindfulness, it's a coined framework, a coined concept, but they come together because I know many people misunderstand it as mindfulness. And when I put that word mindfulness, I put it because it means awareness. You being aware of the full spectrum of your knowledge. So knowledge is not what you think it is. It's not that narrow learnings that we have learned all through our life. It's time now to expand our lens of what knowledge means, because knowledge comes in different forms, different sizes, different shapes. And a big part we're missing is the knowledge or the information that comes from within, that we never pay attention to. And I think in knowledge mindfulness, the real, I think, value is really being aware of the interconnections, like we talked about, between information, knowledge, wisdom, and unity, and how they interconnect together, because that's the learnings, I think, that I believe is the focus of the future. That interconnections and the value of these relationships. Because we have learned for so long, and I think it's time to unlearn, is that, very linear way of thinking, very narrow cause-effect things. And now we need to take in consideration the interconnections. And this is where the lens of knowledge mindfulness focus on. But to leave, before we end this talk, I really, really want to take your insights about advice for CEOs today. Because as you know, CEOs today are under a lot of pressure. There's so many challenges they're facing right now that has not been there in the last 40 years. And many of the case studies we hear about, we listen to, talks about a model called co-CEOs or co-leadership. What do you think of this model, taking in consideration the complexities and fast-changing world we're living in now?
I think there has to be one captain to the ship. I don't know. Yes, we hear sometimes about co-CEOs. I worked with an organization, was advising an organization as well that had co-CEOs. At the end of the day, maybe they've done it more from a ownership point of view, but the roles and responsibilities needed to be clear. But at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to make a decision. So even if you have a co-CEO situation, there has to be first among equals as well. That would be important, I think, for the organization, so that the rest of the organization know who is guiding this ship, who is steering this ship. If I can give an advice, but not to just the CEOs, because I think the CEOs are beyond that as my advice. But if I look at my career and everything that you've talked to, the key thing that I would say for people in any organization is to focus on two things that actually, when I first started, my father, on the first day that I started the job, my father came to me and he said, I have two pieces of advice for you. Keep your name clean and make a difference. He said, when you leave this world, the only thing that people will remember you with is the difference you've made. And the only thing that you take away with you is your name. I think in everything that you do, if you think about, the advice is keep your name clean and make a difference. And that applies to the CEO or to anybody in any role in the organization as they're growing their career. And then, everything, whether you want to change jobs or whether you want to go on from one job to another, I think that's the key thing.
I'm tearing because I'm really touched by how much the words of your father, which are words of wisdom, how hungry we are for that in a world of AI, world of augmented knowledge. We are thirsty and hungry for words of wisdom, which I'm so thankful that you ended today's talk with, and so thankful for your father, who has raised you in a way with so much value, so much strong values, that I'm sure you are teaching, and you're generous with your giving to not only your children, but all the people you worked with and all the people you'll be working with. Thank you so much, Nabil. These are lovely words of wisdom to end this talk, and I'm so appreciative. So much learnings happened today to me, and I'm sure to our audience. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank Laila for taking on this very important subject and very important time of the business world is going through. And for me to really, you made me connect a lot of dots that as I was going through my 41-year career, I really never thought of it from the way that you have. But I think that's an opportunity for us to, through the work that you're doing, to pass it on to other organizations as well. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. And that concludes this week's Knowledge Mindfulness Porch. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to subscribe so you won't miss any new episode. If you have a moment, we would greatly appreciate if you could leave us a review, helping other amazing individuals like yourself discover us. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
You have been listening to the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Maroof. If you want to join the movement of knowledge mindfulness and shape the world of tomorrow, go to drlailamaroof.com. The Knowledge Mindfulness Porch is a production of Forbes Books.